This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Welcome to Holocron History, Star Wars Canon versus Legend. Join us as we take a deep dive into the lore of the Star Wars universe.
Hello and welcome to the Holocron Histories podcast, where we talk about Star Wars canon versus legends. I am one of your hosts, Austin, also known as Teacup.
And I am your other host, Ben of Temeria.
And we are here to bring you our first episode since we have crossed our 50,000 download threshold. And we are excited about that. And I don't know if you've been watching Star Wars news or you have been living under a rock and just listening to our podcast, but Star Wars Outlaws got its gameplay trailer. We got the first two episodes of Acolyte. And I just want to say it's a good time to be a Star Wars fan, I feel like.
Oh, absolutely. We are getting so much is going on in Star Wars right now. Acolyte, the first two episodes premiered. I'm heavily enjoying it so far.
Mm-hmm.
I like whatever the internet says, completely disregard all of that. Just watch it. It is something, they're doing something a lot different with this series. Like, no spoilers or anything, but like, I will say no one is safe.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
And I just want to say, along with this as well, is that it very much feels like it's in its era. Like, it's not just like a rinse and repeat of like, oh, the Empire and all of this is back. It's a similar story, but it's in its era. And that's a big part of that, which, speaking of which, that era is the High Republic. And our topic today is one of the main characters of at least phase one of the High Republic novels.
Yes, we are going on a part 2 character deep dive of Jedi Master Avar Kriss, who you meet in the Light of the Jedi novel, which is the first book of the High Republic. And she is a reoccurring character throughout the entire series and plays a major role in Phase 1 and Phase 3. Because Phase 2 is a little weird, where, you know, it's a prequel to Phase 1. So it's weird how they did that.
Isn't that that's Star Wars?
They straight up mimicked the original trilogy. There's a prequel trilogy and a sequel trilogy. They essentially mimicked that. Now that we just said that, I never realized it till now.
When you said it out loud, you realized.
It's like, oh, wait a minute. But yes, Avar Kriss is great character, and yeah, let's get right with it. So, she was born around 262 BBY. During the time of the High Republic, Avar Kriss was taken into the Jedi Order as a child, brought to the Jedi Temple on the Republic capital world of Coruscant as a Padawan to Sheriff Matal. She developed a strong connection with the fellow trainees, Stellan Gios and Elzar Mann, the latter whom would become her closest friend in the Order. Kriss and Mann had an intimate relationship as Padawans that Kriss later grew out of. One of the fellow Padawans, Emmerich Kauftor, later suspected that Gios was involved in an intimate side of the friendship as well. Which is also this is a topic that's pretty pointed out in the later the phase of phase 1, towards the end half, where Elzar kind of does something really stupid that we've seen Anakin do as a Jedi. Well, a Jedi of this time is different from what it is in, the prequel era before the Empire and all that. So, inseparable from Geoss and Man during the years of training, Kriss ascended through the Order, attaining the rank of Jedi Knight and eventually Jedi Master. Kriss often worked with Geoss and Man on the occasion of her assignments coincided. During her time as Jedi, Kriss worked within the frontier of the galaxy. She accomplished many great deeds with which fascinated younger Jedi, such as Creve Trinus. And yes, Dojo did in chat does remind me there was a new book drop for the High Republic Phase 3 today, which is, I believe, the New
Jesus
Temptation
Christ.
or something like that. Something Temptation. I think New Temptation or along those lines.
I can't handle there. No more news. No one is allowed to
There's so
announce
much.
anything. No more.
I know,
no more.
If anybody knows, Austin does 2 other shows with Assassin's Creed, Dragon Age. I do other shows, Final Fantasy, Wizard World, and Witcher. Between the 5 shows, 4 of the shows had a lot of news just drop all within the last, this week. Too much is going on. That's all I will say. It's been kind of a stressful headache. It's stressful and awesome at the same time, and we don't know how to deal with it. At least I don't. But moving on.
Yeah.
We are now with the Great Disaster. Oh, and Dojo, Temptation of the Force. That is the book name of the new book. So now we move to the Great Disaster, which happens within the Phase 1. So in 232 BBY, Kriss was present aboard the Starlight Beacon space station for a Jedi and Republic conclave to commemorate the station's completion several weeks before it was fully online. Cy Tinham, the overseer of the project and station administrator, insisted on showing the visitors every element of the construction, giving a tour of the station to Kriss and other dignitaries, including several other Jedi and Admiral Prevel Coronara of the Republic Defense Coalition, which delayed their scheduled departure. Now, this is the thing. The Republic does not have a standing army. Mind you, they have a defense coalition just to defend themselves from outside threats, but that's they don't have a military at this point. While on the tour, they encountered the contractors Joss and Pika Arden, who Tinham introduced to the dignitaries. Josh Arden greeted the Jedi, and Kriss responded thanking the Ardens for their work on the station. The tour group moved on subsequently departing the station aboard the emissary-class Republic cruiser Third Horizon, the vessel commanded by Admiral Cornara. At the same time, the Great Hyperspace Disaster, a catastrophic involving the destruction of the freighter Legacy Run while in hyperspace, saw the Hetzal system under threat from the hyperspace debris. The Republic received a distress signal sent by Minister Zefan Eka during the delay caused by Tinham. The Third Horizon, in transit back to Coruscant with Kriss and the Jedi dignitaries aboard, they was close enough to provide assistance and was used to dispatch a combined Jedi and Republic rescue effort. The Third Horizon was diverted to the Hetzal system, and Korra ceded control of the effort of the Jedi, with Kriss being placed in command of the operation. Yeah, and this is a very big... this is essentially the whole first novel is dealing with this. And a lot happens. It's insane on what happens in this novel. It's also a pretty lengthy, good novel, too. At the Third Horizon made its way to the Hetzal system, Kriss sent a message to Minister Zika on the planet of Hetzal Prime, informing the inhabitants of the system the rescue effort. When they arrived, the Third Horizon deployed its complement of Jedi vectors and Republic long-beam cruisers to aid in the rescue efforts. On the cruiser's bridge, Kriss studied a projection of the Hetzal system and the assets she controlled. Kriss projected a float of meteor above the deck of the Third Horizons bridge, reaching out to the Force to form a network of the Force to act as a point of connection for the Jedi in the system. She maintained a clear picture of the events through both the Force and the chatter of the officers aboard the Third Horizon. Her deep focus allowed her to monitor many events transpiring, her thoughts temporarily dwelling on our friend Jedi Knight Elzar Mann, who was flying a Vector. And what's really cool is if you go and watch The Acolyte, even in the first episode, we get our first appearance of the Vector in live action. A much, much different starfighter than your typical, Jedi starfighter that we see in the prequel series, which is 100 years later. You're kind of muted. It happens.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So, yeah, I was definitely really excited about that. And one of the things that I love about the Acolyte show is that everything is so sleek and shiny.
Right.
And like you can tell we're in like this golden era of the Republic. And it's pretty awesome.
Oh, absolutely. It's great. While coordinating the rescue effort, Kriss received a sense from the Duros Jedi Knight, T. Alam, piloting a Vector above the fruited moon of Hatzol, and used the Force to understand Talam's message that the debris contains living beings. Reaching out across the system, Kriss located 10 such pieces of debris, indicated them aboard the display screen of the Third Horizon, and showed the rescue effort status. She informed Admiral Kornaa that the Republic crew and her new objective, intending to save both the Hutsinians and those trapped within the debris. As the Republic crew attempted to plan rescue missions, Kriss returned to the Force, sending the message to the Jedi. And this is what's really cool that we don't see, obviously, in the prequels or original trilogy or anything like that, using the Force to send messages to other Force wielders. Like, kind of like, hey, I'm going to DM you a message and make sure you get this kind of a thing, which is kind of cool. So Kriss continued to assess her Jedi colleagues, feeling the pain that came with the hundreds of deaths happening around her. Sensing an even greater disturbance, Kriss entered deeper into meditative calm to sense what it was. Opening her spirit to much it was able. Unable to figure it out, she returned to the projection wall on the bridge on the Third Horizon with Admiral Kornaa, watching Masters Jorah Mali and Skier save a transport from a collision of the fragment. Kriss felt another wave of worry as Kornaa told Chancellor So that they had seen the worst of the crisis. Then suddenly Kriss felt the hole in her senses and went to the screen again, pointing at a large fragment with no survivors on it, heading towards the R-class star. She ordered a bridge officer to scan the object. From the Hetzian administrators and the technician Kevin Tarr responded by saying that it was a massive container of liquid Tibania. Korra began to curse as he realized that such a collision could destroy the entire system. So, to put this up, Jorah Mali is a great, awesome Jedi Master, by the way, and Skier is also an awesome Jedi Master because, for one, he's Trandoshan, which is epic. And Tibania is essentially a fuel source, and that colliding, a big giant container of that colliding to a giant superheated star makes a big boom. Like a really big boom.
Yes. Yeah, so that gas is what they mine on Bespin. So, like, if you remember Empire, like, that's what Lando's in charge of, is mining that gas.
Yeah, you don't want that stuff to near fire or heat source, period. So Kriss helped load refugees onto the Third Horizon, as she told Karnara, her plan to deal with the Tibania. She trusted that the combined strength of the Jedi could move the container, and despite Granada's doubts, stayed on the planet while the Third Horizon departed with the rescued people. Using her comm link, she transmitted a long message to the other Jedi, asking for help to move the container to move a path so it would miss the sun. She felt the strain of the Jedi around her, sensing Tamala and others losing consciousness, while even the death of Jedi Knight Ra Bakori. As the efforts continued to fail, Kriss fell into a Song of the Force goes silent before they moved the container away. Kriss dropped to her knees in relief. Little did she or the other Jedi know, but their efforts were broadcasted across the Outer Rim, showing their heroic efforts to the masses. Kriss thus became known as the Hero of Hensal. And so this is something they brought from Legends into the canon of Star Wars. Is Kriss essentially has a variant of battle meditation, which is a force power that Bastila Shan had in Legends material, where she could focus her force abilities and strengthen her allies or keep them calm or so forth of that nature for any task's hand. And that's essentially what she does. She goes into a meditative state and connects all the Jedi in the system to physically move this giant, massive container of fuel to push it away from the sun. So, which is freaking epic, and this is another reason I love the High Republic, is they're bringing a lot of Legend material back from the non-canon into the canon and having it a lore reason why things are like this. So, moving on, we do have going into the Emergence Task Force. So this is a part of the story where what they have is when the Legacy run was, blown up in hyperspace, all these random things keep falling out of hyperspace at random times and possibly colliding with other things or just burning up and exploding. So Kriss would return to Coruscant to meet Supreme Chancellor Lena So, Jedi Masters Yara Poof and Jorah Mali and Skier, as well as Senator Nor, Secretary of the Transportation Jeffo Lorelia, and Admiral Cornara. So congratulated and thanked Kriss for her efforts, who humbly accepted them. Chancellor So then announced her plan to enact a hyperspace closure that would shut down hyperspace lanes for well over 500 parsecs. So later turned to the Jedi and tasked them finding a solution to the continued emergences, the name given to the instances of fragments of the Legacy run exiting hyperspace and damaging other systems. To ensure this Starlight beacon was opened on schedule, she promised to allocate every resource she could to help them. Additionally, the Jedi High Council put her in charge of the Order's response to the emergences. So right there, not only is she a Jedi Master, but she's someone the High Council would specifically trust to put in charge of the giant headache that this is. Because this is a giant headache.
I always call Starlight Beacon the watchtower of the Star Wars universe.
Yes. Well, and if you go and look at the comics of the High Republic and see the design of Starlight Beacon in the comics, it literally is very identical to the Watchtower, pretty close to the Watchtower. It's on a much
Which Watchtower?
Scale.
Like the original Justice League Watch, because the design has changed throughout the animated.
Say, like the original animated
is
what I'm thinking of. I can't remember what it looks nowadays. I think it's much more alien-ish nowadays,
yes.
isn't it? Yeah. Like the original animated from 2006 or whatever the animation was. So Kriss went to find Elzar Mann, whom she wanted to work with on a new mission, and met him as well as Lorelia, Nor, and Kelvin Tar, the technician from Hetzel Prime. Tar explained his theory about the emergencies, saying that most of the ship was still unaccounted for. As Nor lamented their situation, Kriss tried to restore optimism but she only succeeded in escalating Nora's thoughts, who then should have believed it was deliberate attack and lashed out at Man when he tried to respond to him. Kriss explained how he would be approaching the situation, saying it would be first to put up safeguards to planets like Hetzal and Abdalis, the second planet impacted by the emergencies that had seen over 20 million deaths, were protected. Secondly, they were identify the cause of the emergencies when Tar proposed the idea to use thousands of Navidroids to form a network to help and protect the next emergencies would locate. Kriss and Man supported the idea, and Loria vowed to work on allocating resources to him. Finally, in response to Kriss admitting that she was still curious about the hyperspace on a larger scale, Nora directed them to meet with the Santeca clan, saying that they were experts in all things hyperspace. Which is true. The Santecas are a clan that are full-on experts of hyperspace, even though that they might not be a good clan per se, like any other corporation. And, having tasked Jedi Master Nib Asek with gently questioning survivors of the Legacy Run and to see if they could recall anything that could help the investigation, Kriss and Man traveled to Verkino on the planet of Naboo to meet Marlo and Vest Santeca at their home. They drank Altar of Spin Silk as they waited for the two to meet them, with Kriss listening to Man saying that he wanted to come to Verkino when he was too old for the Order to make use of him. Kriss did not tell him as much, but she liked the idea, also mentally toyed with the idea of spending her retirement from the Order with Man. When they finally met with the two Santecas, they agreed to share their expertise in hyperspace navigation in hyperlanes, including the set of algorithms that help them model likely hyperspace routes to help defend various systems.
So if the name Santeca sounds familiar, it's because in the sequel trilogy, the old man who has the map to Luke Skywalker in the very beginning, his name is Lor Santeca.
Yep. And that's why he has a piece of like a hyperspace lane. Routely driving to Luke Skywalker. Because he can map that stuff. And yes, Dojo says in chat, good explorers, bad people.
Like Christopher Columbus.
Yeah. During this era specifically, I can't say we don't know much about after the High Republic, at least with some of the Santecas, but during the High Republic era, yeah, the Santecas are good explorers, really bad people. But anyway, Kriss gratefully told them that they would put them in touch with Kevin Tar to help him with these Navidroid network. As Man asked them what theories they had about the cause of the disaster, as Man elaborated on the theory that despite what the galaxy knew about hyperspace navigation, the Legacy Run crashed into something wild in hyperspace. Marlo immediately dismissed the idea as impossible. Kriss sensed an impulse from Man to let her know that Man could tell Marlo was lying. As Velas backed up Marlo, Kriss once again felt Man tell her that they were lying. They continued to say that they could not imagine there was a problem with hyperspace itself and vowed to research more into the matter with the data Kriss handed to them on a data chip. As the Jedi departed, Man affirmed that the pair had been hiding something, but Kriss dismissed the notion of ill intent and instead suggested they were keeping secrets, as all business people did. Well, lo and behold, they were hiding a huge secret because they did definitely hit something. Afterwards, Kriss continued to help Kreven prepare the network of the Rooted Moon and ordered to proceed with the possible predictions of the upcoming emergencies. Once ready, Kreven commenced to turn on the Navidroid array along with Kriss and many other Jedi important figures. Witnessing such an important event during the process of predicting the emergencies, Kreven started to lose his composure due to the overheating of the system. In this moment, Kriss, along with Man, helped calm Kreven's emotions and hold back the high-level panic that were slowly settling in. Man decided to experiment with his force abilities once again to try to cool off the Navidroids. Kriss followed his lead, and together they succeeded in doing the impossible. They were to push back able to push hot air upward, creating moisture and therefore a cloud that would allow rain to fall, cooling down the overheating Navdroids. Due to their efforts, Kevin Tarr's Navdroid array was successful in determining future emergencies. And this is another cool force power ability that they added into the High Republic is you can control the weather with the Force if you know and have the know-how, essentially.
I mean, it's not that far fetched. I mean, metahumans can control the weather.
Right.
I'm pretty sure wizards can make it rain in Harry Potter. Like,
Right,
it's not
exactly.
that big a deal.
When Star Wars is just space wizards, so it's not that far fetched.
Exactly. And like you can call storms and you can clear the weather in Elder Scrolls with shouts. So, just
right. It's just it's the same thing. All the same stuff. But at this point, let's take a quick mid-break and be right back.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat, emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month, even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending, 0 tears.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
My dog was barking. So yes, welcome to the middle of the show where we talk about all things that have to do with the stuff of the podcast, but not really the lore of Star Wars. And it's here we thank our patrons. Thank you so much to all of our patrons who support us here on the podcast. We greatly appreciate that. If you'd like to support us too, you can do that at Holocron or patreon.com/Holocron Histories. If you can't support us on Patreon, we totally get it. That's fine. Another great way to support us is to leave us ratings and reviews on Apple or Spotify. If you leave us 5 stars and some kind words, we will read it out on a future episode of the show. Ben, do we have a comment or a review to read today?
We do. We have a new review on Apple Podcasts from Rakius of Kashyyyk. Awesome show, 5 stars. This is my favorite podcast, and I really enjoy listening to it. It's an awesome show, and it is very nice to learn about the lore of Star Wars. I know probably 100 times more than I did before listening to it. Thank you, Ben of Tamara and Austin Teacup.
Woohoo! Teacup is now my last name. I will embrace it. But yeah, thank you so much for that review. We greatly appreciate it. We have 26 ratings on Apple Podcast. So let's get some reviews in there. Let's get it to that 30. So if you haven't reviewed us on Apple Podcast, you don't have to listen to us on there. But if you have an Apple account, just go on there and leave us a review. If you love the show, let other people know about the show. The last place is come hang out with us on Discord. There is so much going on with Star Wars right now and a bunch of stuff. And we all talk about it on the Discords, on Ben and Friends podcasting Discord, on the Cups podcasting and more Discord, on the Robots Radio Network Discord. We all talk about it. We're all there. Come and hang out with us.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And to point out, we actually have 101 ratings on Spotify.
150. Let's go. It's our next goal.
Let's do it.
All right. And that's all I got for the middle of the show.
Cool. All right. Well, with that, we'll save Star Wars news at a later date because we're on a time crunch today. But with that being said, let's get back into more Avar. All right. We are back, and now we are talking about the Nihil conflict. And if anybody has played the Jedi Survivor game, you might have heard the Nihil, but might not know about them. Well, Kriss was assigned to Josh and Pika Arden, along with the Jedi Knight Mikam Sudmani, and Talam to recover the flight recorder, the Legacy Run. After the successful retrieval of the recorder, thanks to the sacrifice of Talami, Kriss presented the final moments of the Legacy Run to the task force and Chancellor So. The hollow projection confirmed that the Nihil were moving across hyperspace, something that was deemed impossible by the Santekas while they were observing the videos. In the instance, Kriss sensed something between them, which led her to regret not pushing them further, as Elzar Mann had suggested. Once the hollow projection ended, Kriss summarized and discussed with everyone else, presented her thoughts on the Nihil and how the Legacy Run's destruction was purely accidental. In the end of the meeting, Chancellor So assigned everyone to bring the Nihil to justice in order to prevent the Legacy Run accident from ever happening again. Now, spoiler alert, it was an accident, but they don't play it off like that, specifically the Nihil. So afterwards, the Coalition Task Force was created, with Admiral Kana leading it. Kriss was the Jedi ship Axria, when the new elite, led by Kasav Milaku, and several Nihil ships appeared in Nebula. Once the battle initiated, she was instructed by Jorah Mali to connect with the Jedi that were went out to the Vector Squadron. In the middle of the conflict, the Nihil started jumping in and out of hyperspace quickly, which caused the destruction and death of several Jedi. Kriss greatly felt that she was connected to all of them directly. However, she did not stop her from using the Force to figure out how the Nihil were flying and fighting. Kriss shared the information through the Force to the other Jedi in the Vectors, helping and guiding them to possibly anticipate the Nihil movements. The tactic was great to help in the victory that ensued. The battle was later known as the Battle of Kerr. Yeah, a lot of things are happening. Once the battle was over and they all returned to Starlight Beacon for the opening ceremony, here they commemorated the fallen Jedi and all the other deaths that occurred previous to the event. Kriss and Mann left Geos on their own and went to take a stroll to have a conversation about where they would go next. Mann finally getting recommended for Jedi Master, and Kriss being assigned the commander of Starlight Beacon would mean that they would not be able to see each other so often. Kriss was saddened by this as both would have been undeniable connection through the Force that is not compared to any other relationship she had experienced before. Bum, bum, bum. Force bond. Kind of a force bond. Going
A
on
dyad, if you will.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah. Following the dedication ceremony of Starlight, Kriss spoke with Jedi Astala Maru, asking if he was able to locate Master Skier. Maru informed her that he could not, and Kriss expressed concern over Skier having been unable to hear with him within the Force. Kriss was approached by Grand Masters Yoda and Par Tree Beter. And yes, there's two Jedi Grandmasters during this time. And yes, Yoda's alive, obviously. She had not expected to arrive quickly at the beacon. Veter brought up the discussion of Kriss's future path, and Kriss assumed the Grand Master was offering her a place in the Jedi High Council, which she refused. However, Veter informed her that the Grand Masters were not intending to offer her a place in the Council. Veter instead offered Kriss the position of Marshal of the Starlight Beacon, surprising Kriss with the proposal. After the dedication ceremony, she said goodbye to Man, and now as a Jedi Master who's returning to Coruscant. The morning after the dedication, Kriss was present during the briefing alongside Supreme Chancellor and Admiral Kanala regarding the Battle of Kerr, and the Aldrins were invited as the Republic's officials wanted to know how the Longbeam, the Aurora 3, had delivered a significantly above average performance during the battle. Kriss was later contacted by Skier, who was followed a scrambled distress beacon to the Kazlan system with his former Padawan Creve Trinus and the Kotabi Jedi twins Surit and Tarek to a damaged cruiser that was left during the deep space after the Nihil attack. After Skier explained the Nihil had attacked the ship, which had been commanded by a Hutt, they were transporting Vextrillium Cantus, a type of barley. Master Maru informed Kriss that the ship had come from Cedri Minor, so Kriss sent Skier and Sirat while Trinus and the injured Trek wailed for her and the Jedi Knight Vernestra Rowe to join them on board. There, Kriss spoke with Atranus and Skier. With Trina staying on the field with rage, Kriss intentionally said that the young Jedi should have told her, and then admitted that she had also failed to sense the turmoil in the Trandoshan Jedi Master. Then Trela collapsed, and supported by Rowe, told Kriss that they sensed something terrible and to happen to Sirat. Kriss contacted Sirat to learn what happened, and the Trandoshan realized that Sirat had disappeared into the barley field. Yeah, that happens here. And I think some of this does come from other novels and also comics as well, because Skier is a main character in the first wave of comics for the High Republic.
Yeah, I've read those comics. It's pretty interesting. We get to see Hutt Jedi for a little bit.
Do we really? I have them. I still need to read them.
I don't think it's like we get to see him alive.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Just the knowing that, hey, Hutts can be Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Probably very rare, but they can be.
Mm-hmm.
Kriss subsequently traveled to the Cendril Minor aboard the Atraxia herself, sending Rowe back to Starlight with the Hutt's corpse. Oh, right there. To do an autopsy while the Marshal and Trinus followed up the investigation. Trellick's condition worsened, and they began to rave about encroaching darkness as the cruiser landed on Cendril Minor. Kriss restrained the ranting Kotabi while attempting to get them to calm down, simultaneously scolding Skier for being a little help and losing Sirat. Trinus, on guard duty, learned from the colony's residents that several people had disappeared and went off to investigate without telling anyone. After Trellick had fallen unconscious, Kriss and Skier learned that Trinus had gone off on the colony's antagonist speaker, Kalo Solman, barged on board the Atraxia and demanded to know her whereabouts. Solman, suspicious of outsiders, demanded the Jedi to leave, and Kriss ordered Skier to stay with Trellick before suggesting to Solman that they go looking for Trellis together. And obviously, this is coming up with the comics. Oh, and Kodojo does remind me Marshall Monroe did deliberately crash into Legacy Run. I completely forgot about that. While searching, Kriss heard Trellis calling her from the underground. She had discovered a large sinkhole, and exploring the child named Bartol tagging along, she discovered Sirat and one of the missing residents, Julius, trussed up in the roots. Although the Rodian child was already dead, upon waking, Sirat had been acting strange and warned Trellis just before they were attacked by a Drenger, a member of the species of carnivorous plant-like beings. Kriss broke out a hole in the ground with her lightsaber and leapt down, slicing the Drenger in two as she told Trinus that she had hurt her. Trinus told her to worry about Sirat, who was under the Drenger's influence, and Kriss was able to reach out in the forest and remind them that they were Jedi, causing them to release Bartol. Sirat told Kriss that the Drenger had been too powerful to fight, but Trinus attempted to reassure the child that halves of the injured Drenger are healed into two separate creatures, which chanted their no escape. The Drenger were joined by an effective Skier who had fallen under the influence while watching Trek cornering the three Jedi. And yeah, and the Drenger are freaking terrifying, by the way.
Yes.
Thank God they went extinct by the time of the freaking prequels.
Can you imagine Palpatine with those things?
That would be freaking terrifying.
They remind me, the Drenger, if you are familiar with Legends material, they remind me of the Killiks, I think is what they're called. They're another hive mind.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
So the Drengir then captured Avar, Kriss, Surrit, and Bartol, ensnaring each in the vines, suspending them on the tunnel walls. Kriss attempted to break through the Drengir's hold and Skier, reminding the tradition of his duty as a Jedi to protect innocence and demanding that they release the captive group. However, Skier rejected her words and made the tendrils holding her in place cover her mouth to silence further entreaties. Skier then proceeded to tell the group that the Drengir's history, including their imprisonments by the Sith and their eventual release. Though Kriss had failed to reach her fellow master, Skier's former apprentice Kriss also spoke to him and did manage to overcome the Drengir's influence on his mind. Avar and the other Jedi were freed by Skier, and together they leapt into action, cutting down the Drengir to free Bartol from their clutches as well. And then the group returned to the surface of Cedra Minor, and Avar confronted Khal Soman about the Drengir infestation with the aid of Skier and Kriss. Soman denied any knowledge of the Drengir, and as an irate Skier demanded that he admit the truth, Kriss received a transmission from Astala Maru, informing her that the Drengir attack unfolding on Starlight Beacon. Simultaneously, a Hutt vessel arrived on Cedra Minor, broadcasting a message that they had come to free the planet's inhabitants. As the ships landed, the owner, Mygara and Jalak Altri, disembarked, flanked by a pair of Rancor-riding Gamorreans. The Hutt claimed domination over the world for the Hutt cartel. Yeah, a lot happens in the High Republic.
Mm-hmm.
A lot.
And that's only half.
Yeah, I know, right? That's only half of this episode, or for Avar. We'll get to the next half next week, which her story is still unfolding to this day. So there'll be more info later down the road, but I will be going over all the info that we know of her currently. And, going over all the High Republic stuff right now because Acolyte is great.
Yeah.
So that's all I have for this week.
All right. Well, thank you for bringing the research. Thank you all for listening to Holocron Histories podcast. Thank you all for hanging out in chat here live at Twitch. That's one thing we didn't say in the mid-break is that we do go live every Tuesday at twitch.tv/Ben of Temeria. You can come live and chat with us and hang out with us and do whatever. Again, that's Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Thank you all for listening to the Holocron Histories podcast. We'll see you next time.
And may the Force be with you.
Thank you for listening to Holocron Histories, Star Wars Canon versus Legends. You can find us on the Robots Radio Discord at robotsradio.net, the Ben and Friends Podcast on Discord, and even the Cups Podcast and More Discord. You can find us on Twitter at SWHoloHistories, and even email us at holocronhistories@gmail.com.